Some of the greatest blessings in your life won't come from what God gives you, they'll come from what he keeps you from. See, we don't talk about that enough. We love the moments when God opens the door. We love the testimony of breakthrough. We love the part of the story where the miracle shows up. But what about when God closes the door? What about when he shuts it, locks it, and doesn't even leave a crack for you to peek through? And we stand there frustrated, confused, heartbroken, thinking we missed it, like maybe we messed up somewhere. But could it be that the closed door wasn't punishment but protection? What if the no was actually the mercy of God? Let me tell you something. Closed doors are not curses. They're clarity. They're God saying, that's not it. They're God stepping in and saying, I love you too much to let you walk through that. We get so obsessed with why the door closed that we forget who is holding the key. You thought the rejection was personal. You thought the breakup was punishment. You thought the lost opportunity meant you failed. But maybe, just maybe, God saw what you couldn't. Maybe the thing you were begging him to open would have broken you if you walked through it. Think about it. Some of the things you cried over not getting, when you look back now, aren't you thankful? You didn't get the job, but God had a better position. The relationship didn't work out, but now you see how toxic it was. That door didn't open because your purpose was never on the other side of it. It just felt like it in the moment. See, we have a limited view. We see the door. God sees what's on the other side. We see the potential. God sees the full picture. And here's what I've learned. God doesn't just open doors of opportunity, he closes doors of destruction. Sometimes the very thing you think you need is the exact thing God is saving you from. And let me just say this, clarity doesn't always come immediately. Sometimes God closes the door and you don't get the explanation until months or even years later. You're in the dark hallway asking God why, and he's silent, not because he's punishing you, but because he's teaching you to trust him without needing all the answers. And that's hard. I know it is. It's hard when you prayed with faith, you fasted, you believed, and still it didn't work out the way you hoped. And you're left wondering, God, did you even hear me? But just because the door didn't open doesn't mean God didn't answer. Sometimes his answer is no. Sometimes his answer is not this one. And sometimes his answer is not yet. I think about Paul in Acts 16 trying to go preach the gospel in Asia. He had a good motive, a holy mission, and God still said no. The Bible says the Holy Spirit forbade them. Paul wasn't doing something wrong. He was doing something right and still got a closed door. But that door wasn't a curse. It was clarity. Because just a few verses later, Paul receives a vision of a man in Macedonia saying, come help us. And it was that moment that opened the door for the gospel to spread in Europe. If Paul had forced his way into Asia, he would have missed what God actually had planned. So stop crying over doors God shut to reroute you. Stop blaming yourself for divine redirections. God sees what you don't. He knows what's ahead, and his ways are higher. We say we trust God, but real trust shows up when we're staring at a locked door with no plan B and still saying, God, I don't get it, but I trust you. And don't get it twisted. Just because a door is closed now doesn't mean it's closed forever. God can reopen it in his timing, or he can open something better, something you couldn't even imagine. Because here's the truth. God doesn't waste anything, not even a no, not even a disappointment, not even the season of waiting. Every closed door is pointing you somewhere, teaching you something, forming your faith. It's not the end of your story, it's the setup for the next chapter. So the next time the door doesn't open, don't panic, don't spiral, don't call it a curse. Lift your hands and say, God, thank you for clarity. Thank you for seeing what I don't. Thank you for protecting me from what I wanted so you could give me what I need. Because when God closes a door, it's not rejection, it's redirection. And where he leads you will always be better than where you thought you were going. So don't lose hope. Don't let the door define your worth. And whatever you do, don't stop knocking in faith. God knows which door is right. And when the time is right, he will open it. No man, no situation, no devil in hell can stop what God has for you. Closed doors aren't curses, they're clarity. And clarity is a gift. Sometimes we love to pray for open doors. We ask God for the job, the promotion, the opportunity, the breakthrough, and there's nothing wrong with that. God is the one who opens doors no man can shut. But here's what we don't always realize. Sometimes the door is ready, but we're not. Sometimes God isn't holding the door back from you. He's holding you back from the door because he knows what's on the other side would crush the version of you that you are right now. See, the right door requires the right you. you. God's not just preparing the blessing for you, he's preparing you for the blessing. And that's not always easy. That takes time, that takes pressure, that takes process. It means God has to stretch you, challenge you, prune you, refine you before he releases you into that next season. We ask God to open doors, but we don't always ask him to make us ready. We want the platform, but are we prepared to handle the weight that comes with it? We want the relationship, but are we whole enough to bring peace to it? We want influence, but are we rooted enough to not let it go to our head? Because if God gave it to you too soon, you might sabotage it, you might misuse it, or you might start believing that you opened the door yourself. And God loves you too much to let your gift take you to a place your character can't sustain. Think about David. He was anointed king when he was just a teenager, but he didn't walk through that door right away. There was a process. There were battles to fight, giants to face, caves to hide in. God had to shape him into the kind of man who could wear a crown and not let it corrupt him. The same is true for you. God knows what he's placed inside you, but he also knows what still needs to be burned off of you. He knows the insecurities that would ruin the opportunity. He sees the pride that would poison the platform. He knows the fear that would paralyze you when pressure hits. So he waits. Not because he's punishing you, but because he's preparing you. See, we think delay means denial, but sometimes delay means development. The door is coming, but first you've got to grow into it. You've got to become the kind of person who can walk through it with confidence, humility, and integrity. Some of us want the destination, but we resist the process. We want to go from the pasture to the palace overnight. But that's not how God works. He doesn't just anoint you, he builds you. He doesn't just promise you, he prepares you. And preparation doesn't always feel spiritual. Sometimes it looks like being faithful in places no one sees. Sometimes it looks like staying humble when others get there first. Sometimes it means waking up early, showing up consistently, doing the hard things, letting God confront the stuff in you that's been hiding under the surface. Because here's the thing, when God opens the right door, it won't be time to get ready, it'll be time to walk through it. And if you wait to prepare until the door opens, you'll miss it, you'll fumble it, or you'll walk into it full of fear and doubt because you didn't let God form the foundation he needed to build on. That's why this season matters. Even if the door hasn't opened yet, especially if it hasn't. This is the time where God is shaping you, teaching you, stripping away the parts of you that won't survive the next level. It's not a punishment, it's a process. It's not wasted time, it's preparation. The things you're going through right now, the lessons you're learning, the things you're healing from, the disciplines you're building, they're all making you into the person who will be ready when the door swings open. And let me tell you something, when it does open, when that moment comes, you're not going to have to force it. You won't have to beg your way in. You won't have to pretend to be someone you're not because you will fit the right door perfectly. You'll walk through it knowing this wasn't luck. This was God. This was refined, and you'll be able to stand in that room, in that role, in that relationship knowing you were made for it because God shaped you for it. So don't despise the preparation. Don't rush the process. Let God do what only he can do. Let him build the version of you that can handle what you've been praying for. Because the door is not just about access, it's about alignment. It's not just about getting what you want, it's about becoming who God called you to be. And when the right you meets the right door, you won't have to knock it down. It will open with ease because you'll know this is it, this is mine, this is what I was made for. Worry is exhausting, isn't it? It drains your mind, ties your stomach in knots, keeps you up at night staring at the ceiling, replaying every possible outcome. It tricks you into believing you're doing something productive. Like if you stress about it hard enough, maybe the situation will magically change. But let's be real, when has worry ever opened a door for you? Worry never built a bridge. Worry never fixed a broken relationship. Worry never moved the heart of God. Worry never opened that job, that opportunity, that next season you're waiting on. And yet we treat worry like it's a strategy, like it's a key. Like if we worry just right, maybe things will finally break our way. But Jesus made it clear in Matthew 6:27, can any one of you by worrying add a single hour to your life? Nope, not one. You can worry all day and the door will still be shut. But your faith, that's a different story. Your faith has power. Your faith moves heaven. Your faith shifts your focus. Your faith, not your fear, is what positions you for the door God is about to open. So why do we keep defaulting to worry? Because it feels like control. Worry tricks us into thinking we're managing something. It gives us the illusion that if we think about it long enough, maybe we'll find a way in. But faith feels risky. Faith feels like surrender. And that's exactly the point. See, worry puts the pressure on you, but faith puts the weight on God. Worry says, what if it never happens? Faith says, even if it doesn't happen the way I expected, I trust God still in it. Worry is rooted in fear. Faith is rooted in truth. And the truth is this: if God has promised you something, no amount of worry can speed it up or secure it, but your faith can posture you to receive it. Faith doesn't manipulate God, but it pleases him. Hebrews 11:6 says, without faith, it is impossible to please God. That's not because God's demanding you to be perfect. It's because faith is the evidence that you trust his heart even when you don't see his hand. And that kind of faith opens doors, not because it's magic, not because you earned it, but because faith keeps you available. Worry locks you in fear. It paralyzes your purpose. But faith makes you ready. It says, God, I don't see the door, but I'm standing here believing it's going to open. And can I tell you something? Sometimes faith means praising God in front of a closed door. Sometimes it looks like walking around Jericho even when the walls are still standing. Sometimes it's building the ark while the skies are still clear. That's the kind of faith that opens doors, not because you have it all figured out, but because you trust the one who does. And this might hit home for somebody. You've been pacing in front of a closed door, letting worry write your story. You've been stuck in what if? What if it doesn't happen? What if I miss my moment? What if I'm not enough? But what if God is doing more than you can see right now? What if he's already working behind that door, setting things up in ways your worry could never orchestrate? You see, worry leads to striving, but faith leads to surrender. Worry makes you frantic. Faith makes you focused. Worry tries to control everything. Faith says, God, I release it to you. And the truth is, when you're living in worry, you're constantly reacting. You're checking every update, every phone call, every situation, trying to get a sense of control. But when you're walking in faith, you're responding to God's voice instead of reacting to your fear. You move different, you speak different, you wait different, because when you believe God is the one who opens doors, you stop panicking about which door will open. You stop comparing your door to someone else's. You stop trying to pry things open with your own strength. You start to realize that if it's your door, it'll open when you're ready, not when you're worried. You don't have to manipulate it. You don't have to chase it. You just have to trust for it. And don't confuse waiting in faith with doing nothing. Faith doesn't mean you sit on your hands. Faith means you prepare. You praise, you plant, you show up every day with expectancy, because even if you don't know when it'll happen, you know who holds the key. So I need to tell somebody today, stop letting worry rob your peace. Stop letting fear paralyze your purpose. That door isn't locked because God is punishing you. It's not stuck because you're unworthy. It's being held until the moment that's right. Not just right in time, but right in you. And until then, your job isn't to worry your way into it. Your job is to walk by faith, because at the end of the day, your worry won't open it, but your faith just might. We're always looking for the next door, the next season, the next opportunity, the next big thing. And while there's nothing wrong with vision, nothing wrong with desiring more, stepping into purpose, believing for greater, sometimes we get so focused on what's next that we miss what's now. But what if I told you the door you're standing in right now, the one you may not even like, the one you didn't choose, the one you've been trying to rush out of, has a purpose. Every door has a purpose, even the one you're in right now, even if it's small, even if it's slow, even if it feels like a waiting room, even if it feels like a setback. There's something God is doing here, something he's teaching, something he's preparing, something he's revealing, because God doesn't waste space. And he doesn't waste seasons. The door you're in right now might not be the final destination, but it is a necessary stop. See, we want the highlight reel. We want the moment the big door swings open. But God is often doing his deepest work behind the scenes, in the in-between, in the quiet, unseen, ordinary moments. The places you don't post about, the places nobody is applauding, the seasons where it feels like nothing is moving, but God is moving in you. You might be saying, God, I'm ready for the next thing, but God might be saying, I'm still doing something in this thing. And if you skip the purpose of this door, you won't be ready for the next one. Think about Moses. He spent 40 years in the wilderness after leaving Egypt before he ever stepped up to lead the Israelites out. That door felt like delay, but it was development. It was in that place that God was shaping his confidence, breaking his pride, forming his character. That wasn't wasted time. That door had purpose. Think about Joseph, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, wrongly imprisoned, door after door that looked like defeat. But every single one was part of the plan. Because if he hadn't walked through the prison, he would have never made it to the palace. And when he got to the palace, he wasn't bitter, he was ready because he let God do something in every door. So let me ask you, what if the door you're in right now is part of your preparation? What if it's not just a delay, but a setup? What if the job you don't like is the place God's using to sharpen your work ethic, test your integrity, and develop your leadership? What if the relationship season you're in is growing your emotional maturity? What if the quietness, the routine, the mundane is where God is solidifying your faith so that when the storm comes, you don't get shaken? Don't discount where you are. Don't despise this door just because it doesn't look like what you pictured. God is too intentional to place you somewhere without purpose. You might not understand it now, but later you'll look back and realize, I needed that door. That season taught me something. That frustration refined me. That no redirected me. That door, the one I thought was wasting my time, was actually saving my life. And if you keep rushing to the next, you'll miss the beauty of the now. There is fruit in this room. There is strength being built in this space. There is grace for this place. But you've got to be willing to see it. You've got to be willing to stay present even when you're praying for progress, because God doesn't just work through open doors, he works in them. So what's your posture in this current door? Are you grumbling through it? Are you complaining about what it's not? Or are you committed to what it's producing? You don't have to love the door to learn from it. You don't have to understand the door to honor it. And honoring where you are is often the fastest way to step into where you're going. Paul said in Philippians 4:11, I have learned to be content whatever the circumstances. That's not passive. That's powerful. Contentment isn't giving up. It's saying, God, I trust that this door has a purpose, even if it's not the door I would have picked, because what God is doing in you is just as important as what he's doing for you. And if you let him, he'll use every hallway, every detour, every door to shape you into the person who's ready to walk in destiny, not just visit it. So don't waste this door. Don't sleepwalk through this season. There's something here. Something to learn, something to cultivate, something to give, something to receive. And when the time comes and the next door opens, you'll walk through it with peace, not because you forced it, but because you grew into it, because you honored the one you were in. Every door has a purpose, even this one. Even now,